Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. Hello, hello, hello. This is the day that the Lord hath made. We shall rejoice. We shall be glad in it. We shall sing. We shall shout. We are above ground. We are alive in the land of the living. Our hearts go out to all of those who've experienced any loss over the past week, the past day, the past month, and even into last year. God, grief is a serious thing, and it is a struggle on a daily basis, and I totally understand that. But my prayers are going out to you, and know that I'm sending God's comfort to you. So I'm Dr. Julia Royston of BK Royston Publishing, Royal Media and Publishing, and the coaching and consulting group, the Book Business Bosses, where we help you get your message to the masses and turn your words into wealth and be a book business boss. So it's Sunday morning. It's Sunday morning motivation, inspiration, and empowerment through God's word. So that's just a part of who I am and what my life is all about. So while we're still, this is just the second Sunday of the new year. So while we're in the still headed into the week two, but it is the very first week of the year, I've seen notices about people on their prayer journey, uh, on their all their types of journeys, weight loss, goals, vision boards, and I'm don't doing. I've been doing semblance of that since probably about June or July. But those of you who are on a prayer and fasting journey, um, I want to encourage you today. So God's given me something, so I'm going to give it to you, and here we go. So first off, if you are on a prayer and reflection, fasting journey, whether the Daniel fast, however you're doing it, with your church, with your ministry, with yourself. Some people go on these journeys themselves. They go on retreats. They do that. Hopefully, we'll be looking at doing a retreat in 2024. But I recommend three books that, and there's plenty of other books out there, but who is not going to, as a publisher, not recommend some books that I already know about and already have some intimate knowledge of. So the first one is by me. It is a 30-day devotional, and really talks about God in my business. It talks about how, as an entrepreneur, or as just someone who um, wants to have God a part. They're a faith-based entrepreneur, and they really want to have God a part of their business as they go along, not only the entrepreneur journey, but the life journey. So that's available at juliaroystonstore.com. And then there's also a book that I published before, and Miss Barbara Tuggle is the author. When You Fast, Seeking the Will of God. So When You Fast, Seeking the Will of God, those three books, they're over my left shoulder. But When You Fast, Seeking the Will of God by Miss Barbara Y. Tuggle, it's available on Amazon.com. And then a latest one that I just released with Dr. Vernette Nettles. It's Prayers for Your Fasting Journey. That's Prayers for Your Fasting Journey by Vernette C. Nettles. And you can get her book at Vernette C. Nettles. That's VERNET C, and then Nettles NETTLES. So those are three books that I really highly recommend as you begin your journey on for the year, and when you're setting out goals. Some people, you may be like me, you really kind of have your goals starting setting about the end of fourth quarter, and so you're really already running. But some of you are really seeking God again, and I seek God every day, but seeking God again about where you should go and the directions, and you should acknowledge him in all your ways. He told us in the word, and he shall direct your path. So the scriptures, to two scriptures that he took me to, because first is John 10:4, and just the last part of it, and the sheep follow him, for they know his voice. So Jesus was always using, because in that time, in the ancient times, Of course, they're still shepherds to this day, but shepherds with sheep. And so he said, I am the good shepherd. And so shepherd, he's used a lot along with sheep, because those that follow God and has given their life to him, he considers you sheep and not goats and not wolves. And so, and then John 10:27 on down, it says, my sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. Now, I liken that, of course, to your parents. No matter how many kids were playing outside, no matter how many parents were outside, every kid knew their parents' voice. At least they should. Every kid knew their parents' voice. Now, the first house, my parents lived in an apartment. Then I was born. Then they moved, and then my sister was born, and then my youngest sister was born. And that house had a lot. As a matter of fact, even to this day, if you check a lot of the track and field, there were a lot of very famous track and field runners that were state champions from that neighborhood itself, and from that went on to Ballard High School and college and beyond. So, but there would be always a lot of kids, because we'd be rooting. I was too young to run anywhere, and I wasn't that athletic at all. But we would see them. The one girl behind us, the Deborah Franklin, she used to say, "Cut the hedges," because she was a hurdler. And then I can't think of the last name right now. Then there was a family down the street. They were fast. They were very thin, and they were set for long distance running and fast. Hanleys. That's their last name. Betty Joe Hanley. I could see her now. And so therefore, when it was time to go in, when the street lights about to come on, the mothers would be standing in the doorway. Come on in, come on in. Everybody knew their mama, and they knew where they lived. And then all of a sudden, if you looked outside, headed to bed, you'd see that the street was completely empty, except, maybe couples walking or whatever. It's a very close-knit relationship. So I liken knowing your parents' voice to knowing the voice of the Lord. Now, I've had a few people, because I have asked, he said, and God said, and he told me, and they really kind of take issue with that. Like, I don't think I've ever heard the voice of the Lord. Well, if you've ever heard it audibly, it is incredible, and it is comforting, and it's powerful. And if it's a voice of correction, you like, yes, sir, and you get it together really quickly. But the number one place, of course, to hear the voice of the Lord and know the voice of the Lord is his word, what he says. So even though, theologically we could go all day long and debate back and forth. I don't get into debates like that. The theologians in seminary, they can go back and forth, the translations, the apostles who's talking, that's for study, that's for theological study, and I highly recommend it. And I've been to Bible college and the whole 9 yards. So I leave that for the people that are much, 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 much smarter than me. Y'all can get through that. But the Holy Writ is what I got. And the version I was raised on was the King James. So that's what I understand, and that's what I know. That's the reason why I had two scriptures, because I was like, I know that it said know his voice. My sheep know his voice. Now we put a little piece here to put a little there, but I had to find it. I had to dig it out. So the word and prayer, communication, direct communication with God will really, really help you. That's number one. That's always key. Because, we have a whole lot of voices going on in here. We got social media. We got the media. We've got your friend down the street, what Big Mama said, what your mama's thought, and sometimes the preacher that may not be as well versed as they should to rightly divide, and they want to, as they say, turn it to what they want it to be turned to. So there are a lot of voices and a lot of word going around. But and then top it off, you got the enemy talking, and then top it off of that, you got your own voice, what your own idea, what your own direction is. But the old folks used to tell us, if it don't line up with the word, if it goes directly against what the word says, that's you or that's the enemy talking. And if you cannot verify it, if it doesn't agree with the word, that's what it is. But we've got to know in this season, because there is so much access, and there is so much chatter, and there is so much that is available to us via technology. You're gonna have to know his voice, especially if you want to do something really serious for him in the kingdom. Timing is everything, and resources. We don't have money to waste, and our energy. And as I get older, energy I don't have time to waste. So knowing his word and having a relationship with him in prayer, connection with him, whether it's all day long like me, or or if you have a specific time where you meet God. So the word and prayer is always number one for me. And then number two, for me, it's an audible voice. I've actually heard an audible voice. The very first time I heard it, I was a teenager. One of the things, my dad had a janitor's, my parents had a janitor service. And when we turned 16, he was thrilled because that meant we could drive and we could help almost be a fleet with me and my two sisters to deliver, pick up, etc. And so I've told this story many times, but it is one that has resonated with me over the years of how serious and how transformational that if I had not obeyed that audible voice in my head, how it could have changed my whole life, literally. But I was picking up wax, and as some of you may know the story, I the wax from the man was in his warehouse, and I met him at the warehouse. But fortunately for me, a voice said in my head, and at that time I didn't realize it was the voice of the Lord until later on, and I really kind of discounted it until other things transpired. Gave me specific instructions: follow him to the warehouse, open up the back of your trunk, get in your car, lock all the doors, roll down the window about an inch, and then wait until he leave your car not running, leave the key in it. And then when he puts the wax in and close the lid, tell him bye and thank you, start your car and take off. Just like I told you, that's the voice said to me. Later on, 2 to 3 weeks later, I found out that the man was arrested on criminal charges of abusing children and abusing people. So therefore that, my parents were shocked, and they were, like they had done a lot of business with this person. But just to know that. So that audible voice changed the course of my life to keep it on the positive, because I have no idea and don't even want to think about it too much of what could possibly happen if I hadn't listened to that audible voice. Now, some of you may think that might have been the voice of the Lord, but I'm not really sure. And so this one person who's asked me repeatedly, they're older, so they get a little uncomfortable because they don't feel like they've heard the audible voice. But what I have told them is, in a conversation, they told me about something. I met this person and just something wasn't right. I didn't quite know what it was, and there was no voice talking to me, but I had what I call now, and in what I call now, an internal disturbance. Like, there are certain people that you make an instant connection, which is my next point, divine connection. But then there are some people that's an internal disturbance. Like there's a warning, like Mr. Robinson, danger, danger. Like there's an internal disturbance, and you don't quite know what it is, and you don't find out until later, but you're on alert. It's not like you're going to be rude to them or mean to them, but there's something quite not right. That is a way that God is communicating to you if there is an internal disturbance. And sometimes, that internal disturbance is based on maybe a previous encounter with someone else, but sometimes it's a warning. I've had people who got in relationships with the wrong person, and they said, but there was something that was warning me. It might not have said stay away from them, which I've had. No, God speak to my head and say no, but it's been an internal disturbance. Like you knew it wasn't quite right, but they kept on going. And the internal warning, they didn't heed to it. They didn't, as old folks say, they didn't heed to it. They just kept on going, and then they went down a road they didn't want to go down. They didn't realize fully where they were going. They were so taken away and enticed that they kept on going, and they didn't heed the warning side. Oh, they got warnings. Lord was speaking, but it was an internal disturbance. So we're talking about, those of you who are joining me, thank you, knowing his voice, know his voice, being able to know his voice, whether it's an audible voice and or we have the words. So that's number one. If you never hear his audible voice, you've heard him speaking because he speaks to his word. If you have ever been in prayer on this prayer and fasting journey that you're on at the beginning of the year, or even if you do it every day, or in my way I was raised, Wednesdays was prayer and fast day for the whole denomination, and whatever, that your prayer time and your time with the word, that's where you should be feeding not only the spirit man, but you should be waiting to hear. Now I know that, and there's nothing wrong with it. He wanted to remind you, there's nothing wrong with having your petitions written down and having a prayer journal and all of that, because I've done that, praying through the word and having a prayer journal and having prayer requests all written out. There's nothing wrong with that. But make sure that in the middle of all your requesting, that you stop requesting, that you stop talking, that you silence the inner self so that you can hear his voice. So number one, we have prayer and his word. Number two, an audible voice. He will speak to you. And sometimes it is directly into your head. Don't go. It doesn't have when God's speaking, he don't necessarily have to do the whole long thing. Sometimes he does, but sometimes it's just no. I was asked about a job once, and he yelled it. No, I heard yeah, like, just in case you didn't hear me, I'm gonna yell at this time. No, and I said, "Oops, God said no." I didn't even need to ask my husband. God said no. I said, "No, sorry, can't do that." And then sometimes you'll have an internal disturbance, okay? And then sometimes you'll have divine connections and appointments. Like people will say, "I think you need to meet such and such a person." And because you've been in prayer and in the word, that divine connection becomes an answer to prayer, becomes his word speaking through somebody else, speaking through a human being that you can see and touch. Oh, and I've had some recent ones of those things that I've been praying about internally that I might have mentioned it to my husband, but he might have been listening. He might not have been listening, but I know God heard me. And I know that he set it up. It was a divine appointment, divine connection. Now, sometimes those divine connections and divine appointments are with people we meet. We may meet them for the first time and we make an immediate connection with them. Their spirit is like, oh my God, you like fish. I like fish. Oh my goodness. You read, I do publish book. Really? I've always wanted to publish. And I'm an introvert, extrovert, introvert. So I could immediately find a connection or something that we all know. Oh my gosh, you're a librarian. I'm a retired librarian. Oh, did you teach? I taught, whatever. Or I teach, I coach. There's multiple things in my life that I can make a connection with. But then there are some people that are divine connection and divine appointments, that once you meet them, they're major turns and major things that transform in your life. It's like Jesus sitting on the well and meets the woman at the well. That was a divine. He had to go through there because he had to meet that woman, because it was a divine appointment and divine connection for a whole town, for a whole region, for a whole area to be saved. And she was going to be the evangelist. She was going to be the witness. So that's divine connections, divine appointments, those things that God sets up specifically. My last time of being in Houston, I had a wonderful time meeting clients and all that. But there was one person that I met that when I came out, I was like, you did that just for me, God. You set that, you arranged that specifically for me to answer my question. And when I came home, I had answers and I had direction. Boom. And I set out on a totally different path. Those are divine appointments and connections. Then lastly, because I've talked too much, I got to get out of here. Then lastly, strangers. The Bible tells us about that. Be careful entertaining strangers, because some have entertained angels unaware. And I've had, and I've talked about this before too as well. When I was taking my comprehensive exams for my master's degree, my first one in at UK, and how I had a splitting horrible headache, and I still don't know the young woman because I don't remember having class with her or nothing. All I know is I was sitting there. I don't let everybody lay hands on me. I'm gonna tell you that right now. I don't let everybody touch me. She didn't even ask. All I know is her hand came across my head. She didn't even say nothing out loud because we couldn't talk. We couldn't say anything. And I don't know how the professor didn't see her. But she probably whispered. I don't know what she had to have done it internally. And she came, slapped my head just like that, and then walked off. I never saw her again. I don't even know if I have no clue. All I know is when her hand released, my headache left, and I passed my exams, and I was able to get my master's degree. But that was a stranger. I didn't know her name. I would thank her if I met her. I would thank her again and appreciate God for working through her. But it was a stranger. I've had people talk to me and encourage me and give me their testimonies, but it was a stranger. God worked through a stranger. So you have to be careful. He warned us of that. Be careful entertaining strangers because some have entertained angels unaware. So we're talking about knowing his voice. And he gave me this because I know a lot of people are on their beginning of the year journey. God, what direction? I got these goals. Why are they not working? I need money. I need investors. I need supporters. I need staff members. I want to start this business, but I got this job and I need help with these kids. My marriage is not going well. My relationships are all jacked up. How am I going to go? What am I going to do? Where am I going to go? And that is a wonderful thing to take a time, whether it's every day, during the beginning of the year, during the season, to seek God. But to hear his voice is really very key. I know people who say they went on fast and what happened? You know, well, you starved, okay. But for me personally, I want something to happen. I want to hear God. I want to see a miracle. Just to fast, to be fasting is good. It's great for the body. And intermittent fasting. My husband's lost a lot of weight doing that. Okay. You can do it for a weight loss thing. But in this time, in this season that I'm in my life, I need to hear from God. I need my fasting and prayer time to be fruitful and productive. And I need direction. I need answers. And sometimes the comfort of knowing I'm with you. Okay, that's enough. And I keep on going, just like the GPS. It don't talk when you're on the right road. It start talking about, wait a minute, you need to make a U-turn. No, you need to turn right. So if he doesn't say anything, you're on the right road, you're doing good. And then sometimes he needs to reassure you, especially when you've been on a strong attack. I'm with you. And I was in a situation not too long ago, and it was horrible. I was embarrassed. I was humiliated, I felt. And he said, good, you passed the test. I'm like, that was awful. My mother said, I never would have talked to God like I said, I'm sorry. I didn't disrespect him, but we had that kind of relationship. I was like, that was horrible, God. I can't believe you. But he was like, you passed. Oh, that was awful. But I've got to be able to hear his voice. I need that. I have to have that. In the season and the time and the place and the position that I'm in, I got to hear him. So I've got to read his word. I've got to spend time with him. I got to listen for his audible voice because I can talk. So therefore, I have to shut up sometimes so he can talk back. Then sometimes he gives me an internal disturbance where I don't quite know what it is. I keep going, but I'm on alert. That's a big old red flag, like this red pen, big old red flag. And then there are times when I'm like, yes, he gave me a divine connection. He gave me a divine appointment. And then sometimes it's a fleeting thing in a store, a fleeting thing in an appointment. Or, you how you are trapped on a plane for 2 or 3 hours with people, but it was a stranger and they really bless you. It was a stranger. They really encourage you. There are still good people out there. I promise you. There was a stranger and they gave you an advantage and they favored you and they blessed you in a certain way. There's some not so nice people out there, but God has got strangers out there that'll bless you. Okay. So I hope that helped you. I hope that blessed you. Share it with a friend, share it with someone, share it with your community that is actually going through a prayer and fasting journey. I've been seeking God for a while. I have had my word for a long time. I've been talking my word out loud and encouraging my ears to be able to hear it and my feet to follow it, probably since about July 2022, because he gives me my word a little bit, ahead of time, because I ask him, I seek for it. Where am I going in 2023? 2021, he said 2022 is provision, my provision. 2023 was be strategic and scale. That's my word. Some people have posted it. I don't have specifics. He hasn't asked me to release specifics, and I'll release them when I'm supposed to or whatever. But he said, be strategic and scale. I don't know if that's somebody else's word, but that's mine. That is definitely mine. So coming up at 10 a.m., that's in about 4 minutes. So I'm going to shut up and get on out of your way. Live your best life on envision-radio.com. Best way to hear is to download the app, and you can listen 24/7 where praise meets talk. Live your best life today. I am talking about everyday miracles. So the first 4 episodes, it's me by myself. And then by episode 5, we're going to kick it off. So the first 4 is really, I'm striving to set the tone for the year and set the tone for the new year moving forward and give you some resources. The first was Begin Again, Everyday Miracles, and then you'll have to stay on tap for the next 2. And then week 5, I will begin interviewing people as we move forward. So live your best life. And then at 11 a.m., Mr. Spike Davis and Friends show, Laughs, Music, and More. He has been having some phenomenal guests and phenomenal opportunities and great music as well. So tune in. All of the programming at Envision-Radio is seeking to bless you, encourage you, empower you, and inspire you to move to the next level. Then on Tuesdays, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, the Book Business Boss Show, where I are helping you get your message to the masses. Relay my nearly 15 years in February 2023. BK Royston Publishing will be 15 years old, the ups, downs, ins, and out. And we're headed to the summit on a market calendar. I believe it's going to be June 4th. So I'll have more information about that for the Heart in the Paint Summit. More information to come. I have classes coming up January 11th. I am with the Carnegie Center in Lexington. So go to Carnegie Center lex.org for those classes there. I'm talking about the book business for authors. That's going to be Wednesday, the 11th, 18th, and 25th. And then January 12th is Canva. So I'm doing a boot camp the 12th, the 19th, and 26th. Yeah, I don't have anything else to do. He gave me the word, you shall teach my people, probably 20 years ago. And so I'm doing it still to this day. So RoystonClasses.com for more information about that. And then if you are in need of a publisher and you're ready to move forward, whether you still have an idea rolling around in your head or it's finished manuscript and you need some help with the publishing process, go to talkwithroyston.com. That's talkwithroyston.com. Good morning. Good morning. Who's been on with me? Hey, Benji, how you doing, sir? Thank you. Yeah, Divine Apparent. Yeah, the wave of success. Yeah. The sound wave of your own thoughts. Yeah, you have to be careful with that. But then this season, we need to hear God's voice and be clear about what he says. So I trust everything is going okay in the great Northwest. Good morning, Miss Peggy. How are you? Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. So I trust that you all have a phenomenal rest of the day, the rest of the week, and be blessed and know that I love you. And praying today, tomorrow, and always, I'm Dr. Julia Royston, that you live your best life. Be blessed and have an awesome day. Bye-bye.